Hello and welcome to the Estate Agent Consultancy Podcast. We're the next stage and next episode of a really special series all about men's mental health in estate agency. So I'm joined today by Dan Woods and Antonelli Singers. Guys, thank you for taking time out of your busy diaries today. So why are we here? Nelly, start with yourself. So you're both busy estate agents, you've got viewings, you've got valuations, you're doing client calls. We're in the back of the building today. You're busy guys. Why are we here?
I'm here to talk about some really taboo subjects. And basically, if we can talk about some things that someone, can resonate with and can help one person, it's worth all the time out of my diary, personally. That's very simple, straight answer, to be honest.
How about yourself, Dan?
Yeah, I agree. I think, we're busy. We're all busy, but sometimes things need to take centre stage over other aspects. And I want to give back a little bit, to be honest with you, and just, discuss a topic which, as Nelly said, is quite taboo, sometimes can be frowned upon, and just, hopefully have a conversation between ourselves that might resonate with someone, might help someone.
Absolutely.
And just, give a bit back.
It's worth more than any fee.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
Okay, so Nelly, so you both mentioned taboo subjects then. So why is what we're going to talk about today a taboo subject, do you think?
I think historically it's just been one of those that if you show any kind of weakness, and this is what it can be perceived to be, people will see it as that, and you'll be excluded from doing things or being promoted because you're not seen as a team player. You're seen as someone being quite disruptive potentially if you call someone out on them doing something that they shouldn't necessarily be doing or that you don't necessarily agree with. Or I think for many people internally, they see that actually raising something that's bothering them is a sign of weakness. So I think it's not necessarily maybe anyone in particular that's gone, oh, it's taboo. I think it's how it makes people feel. I think especially in British culture, it's very hard to talk about your feelings. Not just for men, but for everyone. And I think it's about time that mental health is now coming to the forefront of people's minds. So yeah,
it is one of the few subjects that doing the hard thing is the thing that is frowned upon, whereas doing the easy thing is almost like accepted. Like if you just kind of shut up and stay in your corner and say, yeah, everything's fine, that's what people want to hear.
Yeah.
They don't want you to put your hand up and wave at them.
Absolutely. And I think it's absolutely bizarre because you look at every other country in the world and they treat mental health a lot better than we do, I think. Whilst we're improving, I don't think it's gone quick enough, but we are moving in the right direction. And actually, I think there's a lot of American firms specifically within the sales industries that they look at mental health as a performance thing. If you've got someone firing on all cylinders physically as well as mentally, you're bound to get better performance.
So Dan, how much of this do you reckon is people trying to be people pleasers? So estate agents obviously meet a lot of strangers every day in other people's properties, which doesn't sound weird at all. And they want them to like them, they want to be liked, so they trust them and they put offers in. Everyone likes to be liked as well. How much of that do you reckon comes down to that effect people try and have?
Yeah, I think, look, you're trying to, mask obviously you as a person. And, one thing that I actually used to pride myself on, I still do, but is being a bit of a chameleon, obviously blending different personalities to suit the personalities that you're dealing with. And I think that's important. I do think it's a skill in sales that you do need to have, but ultimately you can't keep up a bravado forever. So being able to be yourself and be genuine is key. Otherwise, it will unravel, like a bag of lies.
That's so interesting that you actually say that, to be fair, because you're taught in one of my training sessions is very much to wear different hats for different people.
Yep.
I don't know if you've ever seen the bit about psychology and how you've got to move to someone else's box for you to be liked or for you to earn trust. So I think naturally, as good salespeople or good agents, we're quite accustomed to doing that, and then we apply that to our personal lives as well, which then makes it really difficult to create that barrier of going, no, I've got my morals, I've got my beliefs. This is where I draw the line in the sand as such.
Yeah. And it's hard to differentiate yourself between when you've done it for so long as well. It's like a habit, and you do it long enough, then eventually that's going to wear through to your personality day in, day out. So you become that person. And I'm someone, I absolutely, I do like being liked, and I don't really get it when, I've come across so many people in the past that are very much the opposite to that. I don't really care what people think of me, which I don't always believe when people say that, if I'm honest with you. I can't. Yes, I'm sure there are some people out there that feel that way, but I've tried to be that way. I tried to change myself to be more like that. But it's nice to be liked. It's nice to be a nice human, to be respected, but for people to want to deal with you. And if you're yourself and you're going out there as yourself, and people are trusting you and working with you on those bases, then actually, if it's not good enough for someone, then actually you can't please everyone.
I think for myself, off the back of what you're saying, I think I moved a lot as a kid. I was born in Spain. I came over here when I was 9, went back to Spain to a different school, had to make new friends, came back over here when I was 15, and then my parents wanted to take me back again. And that's where I drew the line in the sand and went no, because every time I went, I joined a new school. I had to create, new friends, new groups, circles, that sort of thing. So new bonds, which almost instilled being that chameleon. So I think even today, I still like to be liked. And I think that leads to then doing things or agreeing to things that you don't necessarily want to do. You don't necessarily think it's right, but you do it because you want to fit in.
Yeah.
Which then plays into the whole taboo thing, right?
But I think it is the trap, so I can talk about this from personal experience here, is the trap that you sort of end up living your life by a democracy effectively, and you kind of care what everyone else thinks so much about you, what house you've got or what car you've got, which you talked about before the show started today, and you kind of care about what everyone else thinks so much about you, that actually your vote is almost like the smallest vote out of the lot, and actually it's like a democracy of like all these other people have got their vote in your life about what they think is you should be doing and shouldn't be doing, but actually the one vote that really does matter is your own one, but that's kind of second place to everyone else.
Yeah, you end up for who is you.
Yeah.
You gets lost in translation in between amongst all of that's going on, and I think it's only with experience that you decide to take a step back and you go, no, I'm going to reel it back in now, and actually this is who Antonelli is, this is who Dan is, this is who Chris is, and it takes real courage to do that. I think Dan, with the stories that I know you've told me personally, that must have taken some real courage to come back from that. That's incredible.
Absolutely. I mean, do you know what? I feel like the more I was just listening to what you're both saying, but I feel like going down a self-employed route of being a self-employed agent has allowed me more to be who I am.
Yep.
If that makes sense, because I'm not living up to anyone else's expectations.
Yep.
Mine are pretty high of my own self.
Yep.
But actually, I run my business how I want to run my business.
Yep.
And I'm not there trying to impress someone day in, day out. And acting or working in a way that suits them as opposed to suiting me and how I would do things. So I think that's probably helped me a lot when I look back and look in, whether it be corporate, independent, or, just being, in an environment with other people, you obviously, you're there, to try and fit in, any sort of office I've worked in before, been quite male dominated. And, I love my football and sports like a lot of people did, but people came that didn't. And actually, when I look back at it, they didn't really fit in, and they probably didn't last very long, and they probably didn't feel welcome because we didn't really allow them, to express what they enjoyed doing, or to give them any time for, So actually, it's I mean, look, it's they fitting in is tough, in any aspect of life, any walk of life, but it would leave people definitely sitting back thinking and questioning, their own selves. Is it my fault? Is it me? When actually it's not.
But do you think that's something that comes through from age and sort of when I say age is probably the way of putting it, a maturity, let's say, that as you get a bit older, generally speaking, when you're younger, you kind of care what everyone thinks about you and what the girls and guys at school think about and whatever else it may be. As you kind of get older, you, excuse the expression, give less of a shit. Do you reckon that's a maturity thing over time? Or...
I think life happens. I think all of a sudden, I've got a fiance now, and I start becoming more selfish as to how my actions affect her. So although I'm still worrying about someone else, the bigger picture for me is actually what's going on between me and her. We're a team. And I can imagine as you start to have kids, it's then not you anymore. Again, it's the kids. So if I do agree to have that drink or to go to that football game, how's that then going to affect my kids afterwards? Because I might be hungover, which means I might not sell as much, which then means not as much income, being self-employed, which then affects them. or my mood might change. So
Yeah.
I think as you become older, you have more in your life that you care about. You have more to lose, and as soon as you've got more to lose, I think that certainly affects your decision. Well, it affects my decisions in a different way. Totally.
I think life experiences,
Yeah.
carve the, or pave the way for how you look at things differently when you get older. Obviously, the older you are, the more experience you've got, that goes without saying. So when you've been through things like, you and I have spoken before about, my challenges that I've faced, but my outlook on life is completely different now. And I'll be completely lying if I said to you that, I don't have to keep myself in check and actually, remind myself what I've been through so that, those minor details that I might, feel like at the end of the world if they're not going my way, actually, self-reflection, stand back and think, no, let's look at the bigger picture here. Look at where you are versus where lots of other people in this world are and would die to be where you are today. So I think, your experiences in your life definitely, make you look at things differently. And my wealth comes from my family and what I've built around me.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, the expression that, no matter what you've got or how little you've got, there's someone else in the world who look at you and go, oh, you're so lucky. The fact you've got a mum or a dad or a family or a car or whatever it may be, they're like, oh, I wish I had that.
Yeah, 100%.
But you don't see it at the time.
No, yeah, completely agree. However, having said that, I do believe that everyone's stress is equal to them. Yep. So just because you don't feel, oh, that person hasn't got a mum passed away, but I do, so I shouldn't feel the way I do, I don't think that's right neither, because everyone's stress is relative
I agree with that.
To them. So, yeah, I mean...
I agree with that. I just think it's about managing it.
Yeah.
And appreciation, obviously showing appreciation for what you've got. But at the same time, I do completely get that. Like, I've sat there numerous times and tried to advise, my fiance who's, stressing about not getting the washing done. And I sit there and say, read this article in the news or look at what's going on in the world right now. And you're worried about getting the washing done. Or you're worried because you're, and the same goes for me. But actually, in the moment, we're all human. We're all allowed to feel that way sometimes. And actually, as you say, it's that sort of sometimes has to be irrelevant to your, you're allowed to feel that way sometimes is I suppose where I'm going with it.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I think it's, sometimes you do have to have that conversation with, whether it's with yourself or with someone else, to help pull you out of a hole, if you like, and say, well, there are worse things going on in the world. But at the time, you can still take that time to feel the way you want to feel.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong in my opinion, but I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist. No, sure. I'm not qualified to say that.
Well, I would say probably about 25% of my job is being a psychologist to lots of estate agents. So I spend a lot of time on the phone to estate agents at highs and lows and whatever else it may be. Yeah. And probably the thing that people don't focus on enough is sort of the wins. They focus on the losses more. So, for example, I had a client phone me up the other day and said, I've had a fall through just for exchange of contracts. It's this, it's that. It's going to cost me 10 grand and da-da-da-da. And I was like, okay, well, let's put that, put the 10 grand to one side sort of thing. Let's look at the process there. You generated the lead. You booked the market appraisal, you won the market appraisal, came on the market at the price you want, you did the viewings, you sold it, sell to sales progression, and they lost their buyer. You did nothing wrong in that process whatsoever. And if you said do it again, you do the exact same thing from start to finish, but instead you just focus on that one bit at the end. So,
and I think that's where this links to worrying what other people think about you, because ultimately the client, who they're going to blame.
Yep.
Yeah, we're still going to be the punching bag for that client. And I think that's where mental health within this industry specifically, selling a house is one of the most emotional things you can do. There's a lot of memories tied to everyone of that house, and that's, absolutely fine. It should be. But we are the boxing bag, if you like, the punch bag, should we say, to other people's emotions, and we have to take it and take it and take it. And then when something happens completely out of our control, how do we then deal with that? How do we then bounce back? Bearing in mind that then being self-employed for us, we're then going through the emotion of financially, this is going to hit us pretty hard. I had one that literally fell through the day before exchange, and you're thinking I'm relying on that to be able to pay myself salary, which will then pay my mortgage, which will then be able to buy some food and put some dinner on the table. So it's a real tricky one, isn't it? So how do we deal with that going forward?
So I'll ask you that question, if that's all right. So how do you guys deal with that going forward? Because, you're at the stage where being a self-employed estate agent and having a small business yourself can be a stressful time, a lonely time. You think, you used to work in offices. Both you two have worked in big offices before, where you've got your mates and your, whatever it may be going around you. And if something goes wrong, you kind of turn around and go, well, that was a bit crap, sort of thing. When you're on your own, in your car, delivering leaflets, whatever you're doing, what do you do? How do you manage that?
I mean, I've definitely been through occasions where it's a Friday, something was meant to exchange, it didn't. And then it's so easy to turn around and go, fuck it. You know, it's Friday night. I'm going to go and get fucked up. I'm going to go and do this. And that's not the right way to handle it. For some people, at the beginning of wherever they may be in their journey, they might think that is, and actually, you know, I should do this. But I think very much, as we've heard in your case, Dan, how that can spiral, and depending on the type of personality you have, that might lead to some very dark places. So I think it's got to be dealt with in a more positive way. But again, that comes with experience.
I don't think there's nothing wrong with feeling that way.
Yeah.
I care so much about what I do for a living and for my clients that the result, I know people are probably going to laugh themselves when they hear this. I care about the money. I need the money to survive, right? I want to build a successful business and give my family the best I can. However, it does sort of come as a substitute to me to getting the result done. You know, having that exchange or winning that listing, getting that offer, doing that sale, all of those natural highs that gives me is why I love doing what I do. But helping someone move, helping someone sell, and being part of that process, and then the review that comes off the back of that to read what people feel about you. Yep. You know, for me, that's, you know, obviously if you do all that stuff well, the money comes anyway, so it sort of take care of itself. Mm-hmm. So when something goes wrong, you know, I do blame myself a lot, and you do look at yourself and think, you know, what could have I done differently? And if there's nothing you could have done differently, you know, I'm getting better at it, and I'm lucky. Again, I've referred to her lots of times, but I've got a great partner. I'll talk to her. She'll say, look, it's going to happen. If you think you're going to sell houses for the rest of your life and you're never going to get a fall through, you know, you're sorely mistaken. You're going to have to just, you know, figure out a better way to deal with this, you know. And if there is something you could have done better, learn from it and don't do it again next time round. Mm-hmm. And actually, you know, you've got to now be there to hold that hand of that client and sort of stand strong and try and, you know, figure out that solution for them as well. So, you know, I hate it when it happens, and yeah, I do beat myself up, but you know, that's part and parcel of the process, and just trying to do the best by your client. But you know, I
mean, I must admit, I found it really, really difficult going from an office environment where you've got a team to sort of
I think that's a
bounce off of when something does go well or when something does go bad. And I really struggled with that, coming to that self-employment world where you haven't got anyone. I can talk to Emily as much as, you know, I can, but ultimately she's never really going to understand because she doesn't do what we do.
Yeah.
So when I found yourself, Dan, in terms we work next to each other, and all of a sudden you understood everything I was saying, it helped me massively. So to answer your question, how do you deal with that? It's calling you up on a Friday night instead of going up. And literally, how many times have I called you at 6 o'clock? And, you know, going,
and vice versa.
This has happened. It's either good news or it's bad news. And we're on the phone, and then I'll tell a story, you'll tell a story, and then it makes me feel better because I'm like, oh, it's not just me. Actually, it puts the world back into perspective, which is what we were talking about earlier on, and going, it's not so bad. You know, whatever will be, keep doing what you're doing, because look at all these other reviews that you've got of all these other clients that you made really happy. So if you genuinely believe that you've done everything, good.
Yeah.
But if there is something you've missed out, you've got to be humble enough to be able to go, learn from it, move on, for sure. So
do you think people are publicly humble enough, though? Because if I logged into LinkedIn, Instagram, you name it at the moment, it'll be another completion. This client's really happy, just bought a new Range Rover. Oh, I love working in Costa Coffee, right? Give me the freedom to do it, all that sort of jazz sort of thing. So I'm yet to see, you know, this is falling through. They've left me a bad review. I'll hand on that one. But there's not really good. Thank you. Lots of, you know, the positives. I'd say that way. The negatives is an understatement. You know, it's probably 99%. I'm amazing. I'm great. They're really happy. I've done a great job. And 1%. Oh yeah, I didn't go quite so well this time, but I'll go better next time.
Well, social media is a highlight reel, isn't it? I mean, I've got a massive love-hate relationship, and I'm so inconsistent on it because of that. Because I'm so easy to look at everyone else's stories and see everything they're doing and going, Is that true? Like, seriously, how are you finding the time to do all of that? I mean, I was speaking to you last night, and there's someone we know, and they were like, 20 completions this year, 48 offers agreed, and 30 exchanges. And I said to Dan, I might just post on there 60 completions, 90 exchanges, and 120. So it's like, it makes you feel rubbish, but actually, taking a step back sometimes helps massively. And that's what works for me. And then I put it all back into perspective as to what I've done and what I've done for me and my family, and stop looking at everyone else.
I think the reality is that there's always going to be someone out there who is better, faster, younger, better looking, better head of hair, maybe. Out there.
Not in your case.
No, well, some bits. There's always going to be that out there. There's always going to be that person you look at and go, bloody hell, they launched 6 months ago and they're doing 100 grand, they're doing this.
But I think you've got to look at it like, do you know what, liken it to sports, footballers, or, you know, how many footballers are there in the world? And how many Cristiano Ronaldos are there? How many Messis are there? How many Mbappes are there? Pretend Real Madrid fan over here. So I say Mbappe here.
I said I grew up in
Spanish. And, you know, so when you look at those, you know, top 10 players, how many other, you know, footballers are there out there? You know, there are probably, you know, hundreds of thousands. Well, there are hundreds of thousands. So, but there's only a few that are going to be at that level. And there's no harm in striving to get to that level. But it doesn't mean you're, you know, bad at what you do just because you're not hitting those heights. You know, you could still be a very adequate and good, you know, football player or whatever it might be. Just like an agent, you know, because there's someone else doing what they're doing doesn't mean you're doing a bad job. You know, and I think that's where you got to separate, you know, and it's hard, don't get me wrong, like we're all human, it's hard because if you've had a bad day, then, you know, you look and you think someone's doing fantastically well, or they look like they're putting in a lot of effort or a lot of work and you've not done that day. It makes you feel a bit shit about yourself, but it is what it is. You know, it's...
You know what? I think what all those players that have in common, those top players, is that they've wanted to be the best. Right, and I think I grew up. I started in an environment through a estate agency where you was bred to try and be the best. If you wasn't the best, second was first loser. I think you had a very similar experience yourself. And when I look around at all the other self-employed agents that are around us, because it's such a new concept within the UK, I think that all of those people were the same as us, were the number ones in the company, hit all their targets, were the best performers. And now they're the ones that have taken the leap to go and do this first. So the level of competition out there is so incredibly high that it's so hard to actually go, well, I know I'm really good. All my experience has been number one, top three, whatever it may be. And all of a sudden, I'm not even touching the sides versus these other people. So I think it's going up a league.
But it's funny you're saying that. How many people do you reckon look at your Instagram and go, Nelly's killing it? I'm a chapter 1 today, and if I can be like Nelly in 6 months' time, a year's time, or 2 years' time, I'll be over the moon, sort of thing. So it's always about that sort of chapter looking forward. How do we improve the world of sort of estate agents working together? Not necessarily working together in a practical sense, but kind of collaboration over competition is probably where I'm going with this. This is something that I've tried to work on my hardest because I'm the world's worst, or historically the world's worst for it. So a sentence that I would say historically about a year or two ago, I'd go, oh, that's a really nice Ferrari over there. I bet it's expensive to fill up. Well, that's a really nice boat. I wonder how much I bet they're more in cost them 10 grand a month. And it'd be kind of like positive, but it'd be like a little backhanded, like, oh, but I wouldn't want that because of the mileage is probably terrible sort of thing. Really, I'd love the Ferrari, I'd love the boat sort of thing. And I think for now, it's about looking at people and go, oh, so-and-so's earned 100 grand this year. And I think, fair play, mate. Fair play. Fantastic. If you can do it, I can do it.
I think that's, do you know what? I've always been of the mindset that if I saw a beautiful car in a petrol garage, I would talk to the owner. You know, I love cars. So if I saw a lovely car and he's filling it up, I'd say, in my head, I'm thinking, what a beautiful car. Tell him, beautiful car, mate. You know, because you don't know how hard he's worked to get that as well. And actually, I genuinely care. And I genuinely think, you know, good on you, because that inspires me. Not nice car, mate. You know, as you turn away, give it a little key on the side. You know.
I mean, that's another level.
But, no, but that's. But how many nice cars are keys? You know, but it has to be out of jealousy. You know, most of the times, or an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend. But you know, for me, I genuinely, when I say well done, I mean well done, and I genuinely do look at people and think, you know, you're doing a brilliant job. You know, you're flying. You know, and try not to. You know, there's never any hidden agenda from my perspective.
That's the way to go with it.
I think actually. Yeah, no, I can honestly, you know, hand on heart say it now. If I'm someone who celebrates you and say, well done, or comments on your stuff, and that comes from a good place, like I genuinely am proud to see people succeed. And I want people to succeed. If people succeed in our industry, and certainly in our model in terms of being self-employed or small independents, etc., I'm going to be honest with you, I champion them more so than I do the corporates. You know, they're the ones I want to see that have taken
100%.
I've got the bollocks to go out there and risk it all by starting their own business. There's a couple of boys local to us that have done that recently. They're flying, you know, and lots of people like, you know, myself and Nelly that work in you know, in and around our area that are doing the same things.
But you know, you asked, so how do we change that thinking? I think if you go up to someone and go, yeah, nice car, mate. How did you get there? What did you do?
Yeah.
Be humble enough to ask them the questions and actually maybe try and take something from it that you might be able to implement into your life.
Yeah.
And then the same goes for the estate agents that are around us. I'd much rather collaborate with them and go, right, guys, I've got a property in an area that's not mine. You actually cover this area. Tell you what, have you got a buyer? We'll split the fee.
Yep.
Which we do quite a lot.
Which we do quite a lot. So I think we're already changing that narrative, especially with estate agents. Because I remember when I was around the corner from here, seeing X amount of balls, I'd be annoyed. I'd be like, how has that agent got this many balls up?
Yeah.
What is going on? We're losing market share.
But that still annoys me if it's an agent. I think you're lazy.
They don't know what they've done.
Yeah. You're just getting what you're getting, for X, Y, and Z reason. Like that, I still have that, that still goes through my heart, a dagger of, that's a fee that I've lost. But, me and Nelly we work close, but not, not in the same neighbouring areas. But I work with a guy called Jack and we cover exactly the same patch. But, I would say probably 7 out of 10 valuations I go in, they mention Jack to me.
Yep.
And according to Jack, same thing, I get mentioned to it. And we're quite present on the local Facebook groups and, social media and all of the other aspects. And, in the area boards over obviously the period of time we've grown. But more and more, I think people have commented that I comment on Jack's stuff all the time because I'm genuinely proud of what he's doing and vice versa. Just the same with Nelly and the boys who have opened Stone, Chris and Ashley.
Yeah.
So, but people are like, but we see you guys comment, are you an estate agent? And you're saying what? And it's like, it's genuinely, you said about taboo at the start. People are like, but you're supporting each other. I'm like, yeah, we work together.
Yeah.
If I don't, deliver what I, want to deliver for a client, instead of me hugging them and hanging on to them for, 28-week contract and saying you cannot go anywhere, you cannot go anywhere, you're with me and you're stuck.
Yeah.
I will say to a client, I don't think I can help anymore. Go and try this guy.
Yeah.
And just because the client is key.
That shows that's because you care.
Exactly.
You care about your clients and you care about getting them moved. You're not that typical selfish estate agent that just wants it all for themselves and wants to grab hold of it because you're money driven. And I think that's actually one of the main reasons, like when you was talking about what you were talking about earlier about, overcoming your addiction and stuff and saying, you had so much to risk by opening up like that, but actually you care more about helping someone overcome what they might be going through than yourself and losing your client.
That definitely was a massive thing for me. I think being vulnerable and so public about, what I've faced, obviously, Chris, you alluded to, you open social media at success. Oh, excuse me. Success. And, when people are introducing themselves to social media, you read all these lovely bios about, I've got 3 kids, a dog, and, and I support this football team and I play golf and, I've been an estate agent for 15 years and it's all beautiful. But you never really probably get to know the real, true, person sometimes, and for me doing that was about that. I want people to know me. And you know what? If there are people out there that think, I don't know if I want to deal with an drug user, then so be it. But, because there'll be, as many people out there that hopefully resonates, well, hopefully doesn't resonate, but, their children or partners or themselves might be going through something and might think, do you know what? I want to speak to that guy and see if there's anything you can help. That's what, I want people to know the real me and the truth. And
we get bad rep for not being open and honest. Yeah. I can't think of anyone that's been more open and honest than this guy sitting right here. So, so if people, want to work with the people that they said they wanted to work with, open and honest estate agents, you got one right here that's been more open than anyone else that I've ever known. Yeah. So I think a good thing that we should be discussing is how do we improve this in the workplace? Yeah. What do you guys think can be done in your big corporate estate agents to change that mindset around talking about this? Because
I think there needs to be a role. It's a really good point. I think we've probably skirted around the edges a bit, but ultimately, from all of our backgrounds being in the high streets, etc. Like I said, and I've alluded to, I actually had great support, in my career with my boss, but not everyone does have that. But in a big corporate giants where you're a very small cog in a humongous wheel,
that has the money and resource
like there needs to be a role almost for someone to be within the company. I know there's HR and all of that jargon, but that doesn't really
The
cover
amount of
those
times
aspects.
I had
but-
with HR and when I was in the corporate world where I was more worried about being honest with them because I knew how pally they were with my manager
Yep.
and how what you talk about in that room is confidential, but you know for a fact
Yeah.
it's being told to that person. So, you know, if you're going to complain about a specific manager or a person, you're scared to do it because they'll get back to them and then they'll make your life a living hell and be managed out of the company.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a reason as to why this stuff isn't spoken about.
But I think, there's, investment, estate agents talk a lot about investment in terms of marketing and basically investment for self-gain, right? So generating more valuations and, more money. But actually some investment I think needs to go into, the staff in a sense. And I can't talk for every estate agent, by the way. There might be some out there doing this, but just from who and what I know, in terms of investing in, one or two, team members that come in and that actually can help and and be there to support people if they need it.
You picked the right word there by the word invest, because this is a bit like when various things happen and they go, right, in 20 years time this will save the NHS 100 million a year by banning so and so today. So it's sort of short-term pain, long-term gain sort of situation, just like investing. So surely happy people sell more, they enjoy coming to work, 100%. They work harder, all these sort of things. So why is the penny not dropping at whatever corporate HQ and they're going, hang on a minute, our staff are dropping out at an alarming rate here, they're leaving, they're going to work in recruitment or some other business sort of thing after 6 months, 2 years sort of thing, they're not staying with us. Why not invest a little bit more money in today that we can save in HR, recruitment, sick leave, whatever it may be in the future? Why is that penny not dropping?
I think because they've, if you look at a lot of these corporate companies, a lot of the people that are in charge, so in the senior positions, are people that probably been there for 15, 20, 25 years, quite Jurassic in their thinking, old hat, a bit like our industry is, you know. And I think they are the people that are filtering the message down to the staff. So, in their head, it's just that, they won't, she wasn't cut out, arrive, there's a door, you can't cut it. In comes another one.
They were crap.
It's like a revolving door of, rather than someone sitting back. And do you know what? It might be because I've experienced what I've experienced and Nelly the same. And, we've all had that. I sit and maybe look at it a little bit differently now, where actually you alluded to like a Google, an Apple, I don't know if we can mention these names, but, those types of firms, I'm not, sleep pods, and I'm not saying you need to have that, but, or like gaming, just fun activities, ping pong tables, pool tables to distress at points. And actually, they find, and I'm sure they've done numerous, researches that, the productivity of the staff members are, is wildly better. I actually saw real quickly an Instagram clip the other day about a boss who was discussing his business, CEO of some company, and they announced a annual leave policy, which is, I don't know the best way to describe this. Basically, they don't have an annual leave policy in the sense of days.
Blank check.
As many days as you want. Blank check. And after research, after a year or 18 months, they look back. Staff had taken exactly the same amount of holidays, but productivity was up something like 80% because they felt like adults. And they felt like they had, they felt like they were treated like adults.
So it's similar to what Henry Ford done. Years ago, where he changed it from a 6-day working week to a 5-day working week. Productivity went through the roof because he got more out of people because they were happier. And I think there are so many studies out there that prove that if someone is happier, you will get more out of them. So, like you said, I think people's companies at the moment are thinking more. You mentioned. Short-term pay for long-term gain. I think they're the other way around to that. And I think until the penny drops for them to realise that actually change it a little bit, create happy staff, and actually you'll just make so much more. I don't know how else you can show it other than all the studies that are out there and all the successful companies that are doing it already.
You can understand for the wrong word here. Imagine you were a board member for a large corporate estate agency and everything that came forward to the board was about increasing valuations, increasing fee, making money sort of thing. That's what everyone wants to hear, it's what the investors want to hear sort of thing. And then you're the guy who'll go, waves their hand and go, actually, maybe we should spend some money here. First you've said spend, which is probably not a good start. Spend some money here on our staff that is going to be improvement for our staff and it's going to pay off down the line. I can't imagine that going down anywhere nearly as well as we're going to start doing a valuation tool, guys. We've written a new letter or whatever it may be. So do you think it takes the courage of someone at that level to kind of, almost take one for the team, almost, it seems.
I think that person that has the courage to do it, which I'm sure there are many people that have done that, they've probably done it individually, right? And it's strength in numbers. So they're the people that then suffer, that don't get promoted. And that's why people know that and then don't say anything. And think until you get a whole group of like-minded people opening a corporate estate agency with those values in place, you won't see it, because everyone has to agree. If you're the minority, it's never going to work. So until maybe the previous generation retire and you get the new generation come in, maybe that won't change. But hopefully we'll start to see it change, because it'll be better for the clients ultimately. And hopefully for the people that are doing the job, because, you know, they won't be going through all this stuff that we've been through, or, you know, that other people have as well.
I think it's a good point. I think it's about bravery, isn't it?
Yep.
You know, you just got to be brave enough to stand up and say, look, you know, this is, you know, the norm.
Yep.
You know, it's a bit of a taboo subject, but this is what I think is going to, you know, increase productivity. But if you think you go to like anything, if you've got, you know, stats and, you know, facts to back it up,
Yep.
you know, like, you know, what I've just quoted, what I saw the other day, and there's probably hundreds of examples out there like that. You know, that's just, I think it's ignorance. It's ignorance of the board members and one track thinking, and you know, that's. You know, for me, if they're of that mindset, then it's going to limit anything they do anyway. If they're not willing to broaden their horizons.
And is it a accepted dropout rate for the business? So they'll go, look, we know every year 10% of our staff are going to leave.
100%. Yeah.
They know 10% are going to leave. What, I'm making this number up here.
Yeah.
10% are going to leave, and they're going to go and work in wherever it may be, sort of thing. And that's life.
Well, you was in an area role, Dan. How many meetings did you have where you spoke about turnover? Staff turnover, and you just accepted that that's what it was going to be. So let's focus more on recruiting better rather than, hang on, let's stop this. Let's
just constant
put some money into resources.
Yeah. You'd spend days a week recruiting. I mean, I wasn't a fan of it being in, you know, the area role anyway, because I felt like you were just a bit of a therapist for people to come and just unload their problems on them. And, you know, that comes back to, you know, at the point in my life, that was the last thing I needed. Christ, did I have some problems that I needed to unload on other people? But they were coming to me and, you know, area director, rosy life, nice big salary, nice car. No, I earned more as a branch manager, you know, because you lot were all failing.
Sounds like you're a terrible area manager, Dan. Let's turn out there, mate.
That was at the beginning.
Inherited that,
I did. No, you know, I just think, you know, there is a definitely, and to a degree, you can't keep hold of every single staff member, but there are companies out there that I know that you look at their retention of staff and the managers of their branches, they've been there for years, you know, 10, 12, 15, 20 years, you know, and that's changed slowly actually with this particular company. But, you know, they were there forever and a day. For you to be interviewed for a manager's position there was never, ever happening unless you were an internal recruit, you know, and that said a lot about the way the company was run, in my opinion, if people are staying or choosing to stay. So, yeah, look, I don't know. I think, but yeah.
I think the bit of a plug, but the solution at the moment for me, for the people that are generally not happy but are really good that they back themselves, there is a model out there called the self-employed model, where actually, if you've got the resource to be able to do it, to be fair, you know, you can be super happy. I mean, I remember my first 6 months, I couldn't believe how happy I was mentally. And I didn't care if I had less money. It's like I had my time back. I didn't have the pressure all of a sudden. The pressure's developed in other ways when you're like, all of a sudden, I need to make some money to pay my bills, but it's a different kind of pressure.
Yeah.
I haven't got someone screaming down at me, this is what you need to do, and you need to agree with these values because these are the values of the company. All of a sudden it was, right, what are my values? What do I believe in? And what service do I want to offer? And the pressures came only because of the pressures I put on myself. But that's why I always say I would never want to go back to corporate world, unless I absolutely had to, of course. But, you know, the self-employed model, I think, has been a saviour for me mentally. I now all of a sudden have loads more time at home. I see my partner a lot more. She works from home as well. And the day I have kids, I can't think of anything better than being able to go and pick up my kids every day from school. Yeah.
I speak to a lot of self-employed estate agents who are looking to bring on members of staff and expand their team, sort of thing. And one of the most common things they say to me is, I want to be a good boss. I've had bad bosses who have, you know, throwing staplers at me and whatever else it may be. I want to be a good boss, Chris. Well, what do I need to do? How do I set this up so I'm, you know, a good boss? They stay with me. They get paid right. They get looked after. They get valued, sort of thing. So I think that there's a bit of a change coming, hopefully, slowly but surely, definitely in the self-employed world, because they've kind of seen that sort of how it shouldn't be done almost. So now they're coming into the world kind of want to demonstrate how it can be done with their own business, which I think is great to see. But obviously, it's going to be a slow change.
I tell you what, there's nothing more frustrating than as being what I consider myself to be a good boss with my team of people, to then not be able to give them what I wanted to give them.
Yep.
So actually, if I'm now recruiting people under myself, I say recruiting, they're still self-employed, but if I can then be a positive reference for them, that's essentially still being a good boss, and having the ability to do that. It's amazing. So hopefully it is coming.
Okay. So, final question for you guys, both individual answers, if that's okay. So let's say, for example, you want to be a good boss. What's the one thing you should do to be a good boss?
Support, I think. Listen to what they want, what they need, and just do your best to be able to provide it. But also,
That's not one thing, by the way.
oh, sorry, yeah, that is true.
It was
It's
also
also-
it's taking every one. My head's going like that. Bloody hell.
That's why I went first.
Yeah, get in there early.
All right, one, support.
Okay.
Listen
Yeah.
and be susceptible to change.
Yep.
Two things.
Nitpicking now.
I was being susceptible to change. I was changing my idea.
I joke.
I think that you're absolutely bang on the nose there. I think that both of you, brilliant answers for both of you. And I think that you're not going to get it right on day one. But as long as you realise that and you recognise that, people who start on their first day going, I'm the best boss in the world because I think I'm the best boss in the world,
Yeah.
probably aren't. The ones that listen over time and go, actually, this is what works my team around me and this is how I should sort of mould myself, they're the best bosses.
Yeah. Everyone's different.
Exactly.
You know.
Guys, thank you for your time today. It's been brilliant. Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
Chris.
Thanks to you guys.
Thank you.